Group by and nulls. Nulls and group by, some unusual things happen, but not really that unusual when thinking about Oracle. Most grouping functions return a null when passed a null, in the same way that simple functions or single row functions return a null. The only exception is the count function. If you count null, it returns 0. Selecting null using a sum function will return null. Let's go and look at some examples. So I'm going to copy and paste from my work file, place them in SQL Developer. So let's count null. We get 0. Let's count sum. We get sum. Now here's an interesting example. Sum parent ID. This finds a total of 66. We already know from a previous example that some rows are ignored when the parent ID is null. Some will ignore them. So we get 66 from this query here because it's reading this foreign key which has some nulls, so it doesn't count the values in the null rows. We can prove it doesn't count them by substituting the nulls with 1000. So 4 rows will give me 4000 plus 66, which is 4066, and I can show again that we have 4 rows with null values, and there we have 4 null values. The same thing is going to happen with the show table because it has show dates that are null. In other words, we have shows defined but the date has not been set. 2 null show dates, 158 rows that have show dates. We have a total of 160 rows. So count this, and we're grouping by the show date, so we're getting a count of each show date, the number of shows on each day. And we can do this and count these values, and we'll find that we have only 158. This query here is simply counting all the results from this one up there. So we're still ignoring the null values even though we're reading the table. So it's not about the index. So we've got to remember that count returns 0 and not null when it finds 0. This will find 0. This will find null.